Hi guys, welcome back to another episode of our life seasons where we talk about the different seasons of life and how we grow through it. I'm your host Wen, and this is the very first episode of 2024, and I'm super excited to be talking about a new different season of life. I feel, because for those of you who know, who have been through the first half of 2023, you would know that I actually transitioned out of winter season into spring season, which I talked about in episode 13 on how, spring season is like for me, and just the transition and how I managed to go from winter to spring. So in 2024, it feels like I'm heading towards summer, which is all about celebrating the change that has occurred. And also, with all the newness and change, it's important to allow myself to kind of ripen in its own time. And summer is the time where you take a step back and you celebrate and acknowledge your progress, and you kind of remember how far you've come, at least for me, how far I've come. And also, it's a time to welcome into play, like to flourish, to thrive in this new chapter and really enjoy it. So I am super excited for 2024 because 2024 feels amazing already, even though it's probably like the very beginning of January, and I'm probably ahead of myself, getting ahead of myself, but I'm still super excited to see the different types of episodes that will be coming up in summer. For summer season, I mean, like for my summer season, of course, there will be duality of life where I will still anticipate facing like the good and bad, and the positive and the negative side of life. But I'm very ready, because I feel like, and I always believe that I'm equipped with the skill sets that I need to face any situations that I encounter in 2024. So with that, I am just so excited to start this first episode with this topic on the future is now. Okay, so this might create some confusion, or rather, when you look at this title, you might be, what do you mean by the future is now? Because the word future and now, we don't always put them together, right? It's always like a separate thing. Like, how can the future be now? Because now we always link it with the present. So the present and the future is something that we don't always put it together, and I totally get that. But the reason why I choose this topic to be the first episode for 2024 is because it will really help you with goal setting, and I want to reframe the way you think of the word future, right? Because like I mentioned, words are just words unless you put a meaning to it, and I talked about this a lot in the first few episodes of our life seasons podcast. So I would say that future is one of the words that I have also reframed for myself. Like, it might be a very different definition as compared to the ones if you were to search up on Google, or like in dictionary in general. But for me, future means a total different thing, and I'll get into it at the later part of this podcast. But I just want to say that as 2024 enters in January, I think everyone is just setting their goals. We are thinking of 5, 10, 15 year plan goals, or even the goals for this current year, and we're always thinking in the future, right? And honestly, I want this episode to come at the very start, because before actually setting your goals, I want you to clarify and to understand what the word future means to you. And I want to, like I mentioned, reframe the way you think of the word future. So let's get into it. So I would say I want to start off by talking about the emotions that we attach to this word future, right? Whenever we think of future, we always think of it as an unknown. We will always be fearful. I think there's always a lot of fear, and there's always a lot of like anxiety that comes into play when we talk about future, or when we even try to think of our future, right? Because it's so unknown. Like, we don't know what the future holds, or rather, we don't it's like our it's like getting out of our comfort zone when we think of like the word future, right? Like I mentioned, it's the unknown, and we don't thrive in unknown. As humans, we want familiarity and we want security, and that's very normal, right? But like I mentioned a lot of times, growth happens when we're out of our comfort zone. So what we tend to do with fear is that whenever we look at fear, we run in the opposite direction. We run away from fear, right? And I mentioned about fear and how to cope with fear in episode 23, so do check that out if you feel like every single time you think of the word future, or every single time that you try to envision your future, you feel so much fear and you feel so much anxiety within yourself that you just physically can't think of the future. So I would say that episode definitely helped before listening to this episode. So I would say that we fear the future. That's why we put it off, right? That's why your manifestations aren't manifesting, because we always think that future is something that is, in the few years down the road, or like something that is far away, something that it's not right now, like we cannot control it. That's why we fear it, right? Because as humans, we want control and we want to feel like we are in control of certain scenarios. That's why when we don't have control over certain things, we start to panic, we start to fear, because we don't know, like it's an unknown to us, and it's an unknown territory that no one wants to step in, right? But I can assure you that, think about all the times that the universe has surprised you, or all the times that you've manifested the things that you want to manifest, or even just happy moments. You realize that it takes some sort of fear in you, and it also takes some sort of courage in you to get over this fear and to kind of turn this fear into excitement, right? So I would say that this is why, if you're thinking that, future is something that it's not right now, like it's a word that describes 5-10 years down the road plan, or like even 1 year down the road that plan, I would say that this may be why you always feel like your goals are very far away, right? Like it's a perception of, that you only get to where you want to be in the future, like later part of it. So that makes the goal never come true, and I'm hoping I'm making sense. Okay, so let me just continue to clarify what it really means, or what I really mean when I talk about fear. So future. So my meaning of future, or rather what future means to me, is that whatever that you're doing right now is your future, okay? We always think that the future will come at the later part of our lives, whether or not it has an effect on us right now. We always think that it doesn't have an effect on us right now, right? Whatever that we do right now does not have an effect on it, which is totally wrong. We are literally looking at this in the wrong way, because how we act and think will affect our future, like parts of our future, I mean. So whatever that we think right now, and whatever that decisions that we make right now, it will affect your future and how your future pans out. So if you act like your past, the past is just gonna keep repeating itself. Shocker, right? Nothing changes when nothing changes, and I talked about this in a lot of my podcast episodes. When you don't decide on changing anything in your life and continue to live the life that you've always lived, nothing will change. Expecting your future to look different, expecting a different outcome, is just insanity, right? If you don't choose to change like little parts of your life, or the way that you react to life, the way that you respond to certain things, your triggers, your stories, the words that you tell yourself, if you don't change any of that, nothing will change. The outcome would not change. You will be finding yourself attracting the same thing, the same people, the same situations all over again. And that's why you're stuck in this loop of just like negativity and just fear and just, just life that you feel like, okay, this is life, I can't do much about it, right? So future is something that we have control over, okay? If we choose to control our decisions, our thoughts, our emotions and actions right this moment, future is something that we have control over, okay? So just like time flows, and every second that goes by becomes our past, and every living moment that you are living right now, you once referred to it as fear, okay? So let me just repeat this again. Time flows, and every second that goes by becomes your past, and every living moment that you have right now, you once referred to it as future. So future doesn't have to mean months or years down the road. Think about it this way, right? Right now, at this moment, the life that you live, however that looked like for you right now, was once your future. Whether you deem it as good or bad, the truth is your past thoughts and actions have manifested into your current reality. That is why I always say that, take note of your current reality, because it is a reflection of your past thoughts and actions and decisions that you have made, right? Like everything takes time to manifest, everything takes time to come into your life, right? It's as simple as cooking a simple meal. It takes time because you need to prep the food, you need to cook it, and then you need to start plating it before you can actually enjoy it. Even if you order like takeout, it also requires time, right? It requires the chef to prep your food, and then it requires for the driver to pick up your delivery and then deliver it to you. Every single thing takes time. It's just a matter of how long, right? And your future will take however long it needs to take to get you there. And it really depends and boils down to how long it takes for you to start understanding this concept of the future is now, and understanding that it's important for you to acknowledge and to be conscious about the actions that you're taking right now, the decisions that you're making, and the thoughts that you're having right now. And by all means, I don't mean that you should put pressure on every single little decisions in life, but more of acknowledging that whatever that you think of is gonna happen in your future, it can happen now. Okay, it doesn't have to wait. You don't have to wait for your future to arrive at your current life. You arrive at your future. Okay, it's not a thing, or it's not like your desires and goals that it's so far out of the road that it really takes like a very long period of time. It's something that you can achieve right now in this moment. And trust me, when you honestly believe that your future can happen right now, whatever that you imagine your future to be can happen right now at this moment, because you choose to change the way you act, you choose to change the way you talk to yourself, you choose to change the story that you're holding on to. That is when you can manifest everything and anything that you want to manifest into your current reality. Okay, so we oftentimes we hear people saying live in the present moment, act as if like live in, like enjoy the process of life and live in the moment. I feel like a lot of times we hear this statement and we know that we should live in the moment, but the thing is that we don't understand why. We don't understand why this will help our manifestations, right? So now I want to break it down for you, because this is a realization that I had, and I really find it very, very amazing of how just a switch of curiosity and just allowing myself to ask why do we have to live in the present moment, and why do we have to act as if. And I talked about this concept of living in the present moment and enjoying the flow for a lot of episodes, but I've never actually talked about why it's so important. And today in this podcast, I'm going to talk about why it's so important, so that you guys can actually understand and kind of convince yourself a little bit more to why you should live in the present moment, or rather why living in the present moment can actually help you to manifest the things that you want to manifest, and understand this concept of the future is right now. Okay, so when we view our desires and goals as a future thing, it will always remain as a future thing, and thus our actions will follow, right? We put it aside, we leave it at the back of our mind while we focus on the past of what went wrong, and we spend our time worrying about these quote unquote future things and whether or not it's even gonna happen, right? When we put our focus on the past and what went wrong, we will always be living in the past. We would not move forward, right? And then we realize that the future will always be the same. Our future will always be the same. The next year will always be the same. We will be constantly manifesting and attracting the same situations, same people, same scenarios all over again, because we have not changed a thing. Okay, and I want to keep saying this: nothing changes when nothing changes. So I really hope that if you were to get anything out of this podcast today, I want you to know, to understand that you gotta change something in your life before your reality or before your future can have a change. Okay, so ingrain this in your mind, sit with it, and think about how this can actually help you to process when it comes to goal setting. Okay, so we're actually, like I mentioned, we're actually doing it all wrong, right? It is the opposite. When we focus on the now, we're actually creating the future. So think about it. Whatever happened to you right now was probably built based on your past thoughts and mindset. Okay, let me repeat that again. Whatever happened to you now, or for you now, was probably built based on your past thoughts and mindset. So example, if you've always told yourself this story about how you grew up poor, that yes, that might be a fact. I don't deny that. But as you grow older, you might still find yourself in the same scenarios of your reality constantly proving to you that you are right, that you are poor. You might avoid looking at your bank account because you're afraid of looking at the numbers. You might hate wealthy people and find them snobbish or annoying just because you feel like wealthy people are the way they are because they have a lot of money, right? You hate that because you don't have that. So we tend to hate people or hate the things that we don't have, just because out of jealousy and because of our ego, right? But we choose not to acknowledge it that way, because no one wants to sit here and be like, oh my god, yeah, this is my ego playing, right? We always want to try to protect ourselves, and our egos are there to protect ourselves. So all this stems from one thing: the story that you choose to tell yourself, the identity that you choose to attach to. So essentially what you're telling yourself is, look, I'm born to be poor and this is my life and this is my future. There's nothing that I can do to change it, right? And this is also the exact reason why you continue to attract situations that proves that you are indeed poor, because your mindset is set on poverty. And this is also exactly what you're going to manifest in your life. Whatever you focus on grows. That's why I always talk about how important it is to think about, how you're talking to yourself on a day-to-day basis. How are you actually responding to the scenarios that you're given in life? Because how you respond to one thing is how you respond to everything. So if, let's just say, in a scenario whereby, negativity hits, or you're triggered by a certain situation and you start to react, you start to overthink, you start to panic, you start to have this fear in you, and you start to just resent life and be like, oh, here we go, there we go again. Like, look, life sucks and I will never be able to get out of this shitty life. That is how you're going to continue to react for the rest of your life and for the rest of the year. And obviously, nothing's going to change. You're going to continue to manifest bad situations or negative situations just because your focus is on them. Because our current reality is a reflection of our thoughts and our minds, right? So if you don't like your current reality, change the way you tell yourself certain things, change the way you view life, change the way you talk to yourself, change the story that you're constantly telling yourself. Start by changing little things like that. Change words, your choice of words that you use to, describe certain people or certain things, because that is the reflection of your inner world, okay, and your inner child. So shift like that can really help you to take a different perspective on life and in the long run change your life. Okay, so if and when you decide to change this story of, oh, I'm poor and I will always be, to I can work my way to having abundance and wealth in my future because I deserve it, your future will change because something in you shifted. Okay, when you instill change in your present, your current state, your future has to change with it. And this is just how life works, right? It responds to you. It does not go against you. If you think that life is always out to get you, or the universe is always out to get you, someone is always out to get you, then you would always find experiences, find scenarios that prove that point. But if you feel and you take control of your life, you take control of your thoughts, you would know that whatever happens around you, it really depends on how you react to it or how you respond to it. Okay, because if you choose to respond in a way whereby you're calm, you're collected, you don't get, you don't allow your emotions to kind of shake things up, you're very calm and you know that, okay, this is how I'm gonna do things, and it's okay that this is just life, this is just part and parcel of life, the duality of life, the good and bad, right? That's when you start to change, that's when you start to shift, that's when you know that your future, whatever that you want your future to be, you can eventually have it, and it can happen right now because you choose to change something in your life right at this moment. Okay, so if you find yourself constantly attracting the same situation, relationships or emotions or people, whatever it is that you are so unhappy about, just know that your future is a reflection of your past thoughts. Okay, and I will keep saying it again and again and again until you understand that whatever decision that you choose to make right at this moment, it's gonna affect your future. Okay, so the future that you desire can happen right now, even if it means part of it, right? As long as you treat it as your present, you'll slowly see that the little parts of it will start manifesting into your current reality. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that, whatever that you desire, like, it will come like 100%, right? Because that's just not how life works. Life works in a very mysterious way. We have miracles that happen every single day, right? But there will be times where you are faced with certain scenarios that just upsets you or just triggers you, right? And I would say that how I look at it is that life, or rather the things that you want to manifest, it will always manifest into your life in many different ways slowly. But it only will manifest in your life if you choose to open yourself up for receiving, and if you choose to allow yourself to tell yourself that, okay, it's okay to not manifest everything that I want to have, even parts of it. I want to be able to focus on the possibilities of this situation, of what this situation can bring into my life to get me closer to my manifestation. Okay, it's not 100% like, if you think about the future is now and you start taking actions and you put so much pressure on yourself to take the right actions, that your manifestations will come 100%. Okay, this is not how it works. This is not how manifestations works. This is not how the life works. Okay, and I'm pretty sure by now you would know it. Okay, so right now I would say is that the past is behind, so you learn from it. The future is actually ahead, so you prepare for it right now, right? The present is here, so you live it. That's why live in the present moment, and it will really help you to visualize the future that you want to have, and also not only visualize it, but also visualize it in a very light-hearted way, right? Because like I mentioned, every single time that we think of the future, you would always see it as something that is so scary, something that is in the unknown, that you do not want to ever think about it because it gets you so afraid, like you're so fearful, and you just have so much anxiety just thinking about the future, because we all feel like we need to get it right? We need to know how our future exactly pans out. We need to know what we want at a certain age. And that's just kind of how society has brought us up. But the thing is that I'm here to tell you that you do not have to visualize exactly how you want your future to be, because your future changes every other day. It might change every other month. It might change every other year. It doesn't really matter. What matters is what you're currently doing right now. Focus on what you intend to do right now, what you're telling yourself right now, and just live in the present moment, okay? So I would say never plan too far down the road. If you're planning like your goals right now, if you're writing your goals right now, I would say think of maybe like go by months or even 1 year, never more than a year, okay? Never plan too far down the road, because it's good to have an idea to learn to detach from the present. Because if you plan too far down the road, you're so fixated on how that particular thing, or rather your vision of the future, has to happen in that way at that time within this time period, and you put so much pressure to yourself that I feel like that's why when you think of your future, you have so much anxiety, because you always feel like you don't have enough time, or you always feel like, you're looking at a timeline whereby it never should be there, right? Like we always put timeline to certain things just because we're so used to it, just because it gives us security and gives us comfort. But just know that growth happens outside of your comfort zone. Every single time that you choose to step out of your comfort zone and take the leap of faith, you're actually growing. It's something you should be proud of. Yes, there may be fear that comes with it, but know to walk with fear. I mentioned this in one of the episodes on fear. Learn to walk with fear. Fear will always be there. You would never ever, if someone were to tell you that you are gonna be fearless, I would tell you to run in the opposite direction, because there's literally no way that someone can be fearless, because fear honestly helps us to grow, and fear keeps us away from danger, right? It's just that when we think about our future, how we allow fear to empower us instead of pulling us down, it's really important, okay? So I would say you would never know, like I mentioned again, you will never know how your future will turn out, and it is okay. Having a visualization of how you want your future to be, and just thinking of the possibilities, the endless miracles that can happen in your life and happen in your future, the different types of future that you can have, is more than enough. You do not need to think that your future is fixated, that if you set your eyes on certain things, that it has to happen that way, it has to happen within that timeline, okay? No. Our 5 to 10 year plans might change, but what won't change is the present moment. That is why living in the present moment is so important, okay? So if you take on this mindset of the future is now, what can happen right now, the change that can happen right now is insane. So let me tell you, your future is created by what you do now, today, okay? Right at this moment, not later, not tomorrow. Now, your future is now. With this mindset, you start to open yourself up to more possibilities. You're able to see, when you come across a certain negative situation or a certain situation that triggers you, you know that it happens for a reason, right? When a door closes, another door opens up. You're constantly opening yourself to receiving, the surprises that the universe can give you. And I always say that, always think of yourself as the universe favorite, right? Because whatever happens for you in your life happens for a reason. And when you look back at it, I can tell you this like 100%, I'm so certain, when you look back at the things that you're triggered by, or the things that you deemed as life-changing, you always realize that it always turns out to be better than expected. It always leads you closer to your quote-unquote future, or quote-unquote ideal future, okay? So you live in this present moment because the future is now, something that you have control over, and you do not have to wait, okay? I'll say it again. Your future is now. You do not have to wait for it for you to get there. You do not have to wait for things to happen before you can actually get there, okay? The future arrives to you, okay, right at this moment. So you become more responsive in life and not reactive. You're much happier, you spend lesser time in the trenches and more time in the miracle land. Okay, when you start to open yourself up to this concept of the future is now, and acknowledging that whatever actions that you take right now, whatever decisions that you make right now, it's the best decision that you can make right at this moment. Okay, and that this is gonna allow you to get closer to your future, or rather for your future to get closer to you step by step. Okay, so I want to end this podcast by saying the future is yours to create. Don't ever wait for the future to arrive at you, okay? To arrive for you. I will feel that, like I mentioned, if you are planning your goals right now, I want you to think of, the possibilities and start getting excited about your future, and not think of your future as something that is so far off that it's a 5 to 10 year plan. Because for me, I used to plan, like, even when I start creating my vision board, right, for 2023, I started planning for, like, my end goal of, what my future would look like 5-10 years down the road, right, of having like a apartment with a sea view, being able to just travel anywhere I want to, owning my own business, and just living the creative life. I think when I create my vision board around that, or when I create goals around that, I find myself just being so stressed out by a lot of things, especially as time pass, as the clock ticks, right? I feel like, oh my god, like I'm nowhere near there. Like I start to beat myself up for not achieving what I want to achieve in the next 5 to 10 year plan, because I have this timeline that I feel like I need to satisfy. I have this timeline that I feel like, I'm checking off the list, and as time is taking in, if I'm not closer to where I want to be, I'm doomed. And that's not how it should work, right? Enjoy life, enjoy this present moment, because when you start to live in the present moment, the future eventually will start shifting, it will start changing. Every year is different, every season of your life is different. So with every season, with every growth, you will change the way you view your future. And know that your future is not something that you arrive to. It's not something that when you arrive at your future, you feel like you're gonna be the happiest person on earth, that you're not gonna have any problems, that you're just gonna be abundant, you're gonna be wealthy, that it's the end of life. There is no end to life until the day that you die, okay, until you take your last breath. There is no end. We're constantly learning, we're constantly changing the way we view life, we're constantly changing our future plans, and that is okay, right? And I mentioned, like, the future is literally right now, because I can tell you this, think of it this way. Literally few seconds ago, when I'm talking about certain topic, like, it is what I talk about, like the future right now. I know it's a little bit confusing, and it honestly took me some time to sit with it and to be able to produce this podcast, because I have tried, and I was supposed to record this podcast yesterday. I sat down, I had 3 takes, and I just couldn't get it out. And I feel like, okay, I needed time to sit with it and allow the universe to kind of flow through me and be able to write something out that I feel like, okay, this is what I meant to say, and this is a good message to kind of, provide you guys with. So this is not a concept that you can grasp like 100%, like immediately, and I don't expect you to do that. If you can, amazing, great for you. But I feel like this is a concept that you have to sit with yourself and honestly really just think about it and let it sip in and let it soak in, and allow the things around you to prove to you that whatever decisions that you make right now, whatever actions that you choose to take right now, you have a choice. You have a choice to change your future, and your future is now, okay? Because even as of right now, I'm still grasping this concept, and I'm still learning how to live in the present moment. It's not an easy thing to do. It's not something that you can do within the next 1 year or the next few months. Like I mentioned, don't put a timeline to anything anymore, okay? Like, of course, have the time, take the time to think about your future, to dream of the possibilities of your future, and just think about, how you want your 5, 10 year, 15 year plan to be like. But don't ever think of like the nitty gritty of how it's gonna happen. Think of the end goal, live it as that, live it up to the universe, and just enjoy the present moment in life. Because honestly, trust me, when you start to enjoy the present moment in life, you really live life a little bit more happier, and you just feel in flow. And when you're in flow in life, your manifestations start coming in like naturally, right? It flows. Everything is a cycle. So it all starts and boils down to your thoughts, your actions right at this current moment. First of all, is to even start to change your life, is to acknowledge that you want to change your life, that change needs to happen before you can actually arrive at your future, okay? So before I wrap up this podcast, I just want to tell you that you have and you are in control of your future, okay? You do not have to wait for things to happen whatever that you decide right now at this moment is gonna affect your future in a non like invasive and a non like traumatic, or rather like a non time sensitive way. Just know that let go of the things that you need to let go of this fear, of this anxiety, of this concept of the future, and just let everything be fun. Okay, learn to enjoy life a little bit more and have fun, and take life as a game, honestly, because when you are so focused on the end of the outcome, you don't get to enjoy the process because you're always fixated on the outcome, and the outcome will always change as things happen for you in life. And as you start to kind of discover yourself and know yourself a little bit better, you would know that your future will change. Just think about what you think of like when you're a child, right? When you're a child, you probably dream of becoming like, I don't know, like something else, right? But right now your dream might change, because in the past, my childhood dream was always to become like an air stewardess, because I love to travel around the world, right? My parents used to take me all over the place, and I really love that. But the thing is that as time passed, as I grew up, I realized that, you know what, like it's a dream that might not be suitable for me, or rather I might not want to have. And I did actually apply, or try to apply to be an air stewardess. But it didn't go through just because of my height. Like I was too short. I passed all the interviews, but I was just too short, and it's okay. Like it's fine. At least I try to work towards my future, and if it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen. Like this is how I'm gonna take life right now. Like if it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen. I agree and I acknowledge that the universe is always in the works, that nothing is actually working against you, right? The universe is just responding to you, and for them, or for it to respond like to you, you gotta start taking the responsibility to control your life, to take control over your life first. Okay, so like I always mention, life is always responding to you and not against you. Okay, so I hope that this podcast episode kind of gives you a better idea of how you can actually start your year, and how can you actually start to plan your goals, and just take this word future as a very light-hearted way. Okay, I want and I hope that this has actually changed your perspective on the word future, and this is just my perspective on future, and the latest I don't know, a latest discovery that I've had, or a latest eye-opening and insane discovery that I had in life, and I just kind of want to share it with you guys. So I hope that you guys enjoyed this podcast episode, and I will see you in next week's episode.